Hello and welcome. I really wanted to come on here today and share some of the really frequently asked questions that I'm getting about my upcoming yoga teacher training, the fundamentals of yoga, 200-hour teacher training. Now, I'm just giving it a minute here because I want a few things to happen here just so in case you have questions live, I can go ahead and answer those for you as well. There we go. Okay. We're good to go there. Perfect. Excellent. It just takes a few minutes for everything to kind of go the way that I want it to go. I'm also deciding that I'm going to actually do this live on both Instagram as well as Facebook at the same time. I was going to do them separately, but that just seems like a lot of work and I don't want anything to be left out from one versus the other. So I just want to make sure that I'm pulling up kind of the live video, again, just to make sure that I can see all your questions coming through. So thank you for your patience. I promise you it is going to be worth it. Where are we here? All right. Ooh, there we go. Sorry, forgot to turn down the volume on that. All right. So first and foremost, my name is Dominique Gauthier. I am the owner of Body Mind Fitness. It is a small personal training and yoga studio right here in London, Ontario. Now, as you may have heard, we are going into our second year of yoga teacher training. Body Mind Fitness is officially considered a yoga school according to the Yoga Alliance standards, which I'm going to get to in just a moment. Now, I find that when I'm creating content to share about this for you, we're getting these little snippets, right? These little tiny pieces throughout of me going, okay, like, here's the facts. But a lot of times, because I only A, have a certain amount of room to write these captions, and B, we read things so quickly that a few things are just getting lost along the way. So I wrote out a series of questions, the things that people are asking me after they've applied or when they're simply emailing me or calling me and inquiring. So the very first question, and I completely understand why this might be confusing, is what the heck is the format? So I'm doing things a little bit differently. When I originally was planning to run a yoga teacher training, I was so excited that I had my own space. I wouldn't have to worry about rent. We would all get together all weekend long and do this thing we call yoga. And then kind of in our post-pandemic reality, a lot of people aren't looking for 200 hours spent in a classroom. And I completely get it. To be honest with you, I wouldn't have even done my advanced yoga teacher training if it was in person. I had small kids. I needed it to be able to run this training, but it would have been a really difficult thing to do. So this ability to be able to share things with you online is such a fantastic opportunity that wasn't available in yoga teacher trainings that were certified by Yoga Alliance prior to the pandemic having started. So I decided to change this up, and I actually kind of built this based on what the students from the first round wanted. So essentially, there's a lot of lecture, to be honest with you, and I'm going to go over all the things that we're going to cover very, very shortly, but there is a lot of lecture. So most of the training will be taking place live online. Friday nights from 5:30 to 8:30 p.m. Saturday, we'll have an option. So you can either come to the studio if you're local, but if you're from anywhere else around the world and you love the things that I talk about, you can also attend online and you are not going to miss a beat. How? Because it's all going to be recorded. So it's all going to be recorded and streamed for you. And on top of that, I was playing around with this a little bit in the last training. I've actually figured out a way to have multiple camera angles. So that way, when it's important to focus on the room as a whole and all the students that are here as we're going through poses or going through practice teaching, you will not miss a beat. There will be microphones, such as the one I'm using right now, to make sure everything is heard. So again, Saturdays will be all day. You can either be online or there is limited space here at the studio, okay? Then on Sunday, we're back to online. And then one Tuesday per month, 5:30 to 8:30 p.m., we are going to be back online again. So this is mostly going to be around to cover things like homework. I want to make sure we go over all those things together just to make sure you're keeping up, you're on track. Which brings me to the next point. How long is this training? It is not a month-long training. It is not a 2-month training. It is 9 months total. It goes from October 24th until June. I believe the last day is the 14th, is the Sunday. So lots of time to really start integrating everything that you have learned. I have done both formats before. I have done like an intense format, and then I've done this stretched out format. And to be honest, as a new student coming into the space, I would have found that the intensive thing for me personally was going to be too much. This allows you to take what you learn and really integrate it in between the time that we're together. Reread things, rewatch the videos, whatever you need to do is going to be available to you, because yes, you are also getting access to the recordings, every single one of them. So 9-month training. The only time we are not meeting on Saturday and Sunday is in December, because December's crazy. December is its own separate little beast. And last year, it just became really overwhelming for myself, for the students. We've got parties, we've got this, we've got that, we've got shopping, we've got get-togethers, all these different things happening that it just felt too much. But we are still going to be meeting on the Friday as well as the Tuesday of that month. So I'm hoping that these shorter little mini classes are going to help you out a lot. The next question is, are there payment plans? So recently I did announce that there were payment plans available. So when you apply, I will get back to you. I will set up a call with you just to make sure that this training is a good fit, not just for you, but also for me. Are you going to jive with the rest of the people that are currently in the room? That is really, really important to me, because I want to make sure that we are all able to share our experiences. Because it's not, to be honest with you, I don't want to be a talking head. I love the conversations that start to arise from the different topics that we will be covering. And I'm sure you have different life experiences that I don't have. And sometimes that can really be enlightening and open up this possibility to even me learning through your experiences. And I always encourage people to share. It's a really safe space. You're going to get to know the other students, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful thing. So once we go through the interview, if you are accepted into the program, a $500 deposit is due to save your spot. Now, because we're already in October, I'm not going to lie here, I set up a 9-month payment plan. So it's going to get a little bit hairy just at the very beginning, because your first payment, which is $339 and change. I should have looked that up before I got on here. I am so sorry about that. So that payment will be due by the 25th of October. So our first in-person session, if you are choosing the hybrid track, meaning in-person and online. Same thing with the online people. You will just be sent an invoice for that. Then your subsequent payments will be due on the 10th of every month. Now, the reason for this is because all payments have to be due in order for you to receive your certificate. I don't want you to not have your certificate the day everyone else does. I don't want you to feel left out. I would like to be able to hand you that certificate the day of our last class together. After your presentation, here you go, there it is. So again, because of that, it gets a little bit hairy. It's my first time running a payment plan. So I'm not gonna lie, it just got a little bit messy. And in terms of the difference of price between full price and payment plan, it's just a matter of a few cents, just because it didn't split up completely evenly. There is no interest on it. There is no upcharge for it. It is going to be the exact same price as the full price for the training. So if it's helpful for you to kind of split that up into smaller increments, then that's definitely the way to go. Now, the next question is there a textbook? Is there a workbook? Am I going to be able to take notes and things? Absolutely. So because I am a perfectionist, I have actually re-edited it, I would say. I didn't rewrite the whole manual, but I'm definitely editing it again for a couple of reasons. The first one being that the first training we did, the textbook was so big, I had to print the workbook separately. And some of the pictures were just enormous. It looked great on a computer. But then when I actually printed it out, I was like, whoa, okay, that's a lot of photos. So I've just been sizing down the photos, rewording a few things just to make sure it's super simple and easy to understand. So it might be a combination. It is my hope that it'll be a combination of textbook and workbook, or it will be textbook, workbook. Again, I would like you to have kind of all of those things together, and I'm trying to minimize what you end up carrying around. There is also some required reading. So the textbook is included with the price of the training. However, the required reading is not. You will be responsible to not receive, but get those required readings, whether you borrow them from a library, you borrow them from a friend, or you purchase them. You will get that required reading list as soon as the deposit is made. In fact, you will get the required reading list and what is now currently the workbook in digital form. That way, if you want to get started with the required readings, you have the questions for the required readings there. So if we don't actually touch on that material for maybe a couple of months, you are going to get the main points that I was hoping for you to get out of those required readings. And they will sometimes show up as questions for your homework as well. So I just want to make sure that that is all fresh in there for you. I did mention recordings. So as I mentioned, you will get access to every single recording that I do, and that will be housed in my exclusive member section on my website. You will have access to these recordings for at least a year, at least in terms of being it on the member portal. Now, I always tell people I take up a lot of real estate on YouTube. So if it ever gets to the point where they're like, you need to clear up space or we're going to charge you $5 bajillion for all these videos, I am going to have to migrate those off of there eventually. But my hope is that once they get pulled from the member portal, I will send you the link if you would like for the entire training that you can view through YouTube versus the online portal. Don't go sneaking around. They're all unlisted. You won't be able to find them. I have been doing this for a long time now, this online business. A lot of the things that are meant for the students, whether that is in class or for this training, will just be there for the students. Perfect. So that actually covered the 2 bullet points I had here. The next one is the course certified by Yoga Alliance? Some people know what Yoga Alliance is. Some people do not. If you do not, you will learn about that even more during the training. And essentially, Yoga Alliance is what gives you the ability to use the term registered yoga teacher. So they're not a governing body of yoga. To be honest with you, there is no governing body of yoga as of my recording today. However, they do create specific standards that need to be adhered to, especially when you are a registered yoga school through them. Now, I chose to go the route of becoming a registered yoga school. Not all yoga teacher trainings do this. And the reason that I did this is because I don't want you to spend your hard-earned cash on my training, not to mention 200 hours of time with me. And then if you decide, I want to be able to call myself a registered yoga teacher, and then you can't. And the reason you wouldn't be able to is because I didn't register with Yoga Alliance. So I went through the entire registration process. I submitted my manual. I submitted to be honest, this harder than writing a 700-page manual was the process it took to get approved through Yoga Alliance. It was very, very intense, very, very I almost found it more challenging, to be honest with you, because again, I had to provide a schedule breaking down how each hour of the training is going to go. I had to submit my teaching manual. I had to do all of these things, and it was a very long process. The really cool thing, at least from the people that I know who are yoga teachers, I didn't have to rewrite my manual. I got approved right away. And I want to point this out because this manual has been what I've been breathing for the last 4 or 5 years now. I put a lot of thought, a lot of care into it, and I wanted to make sure that you have everything that you need. So if you want to teach a yoga class Sunday night after your training, you can go ahead and teach a class Sunday night. You're probably going to be exhausted. I don't really recommend it, so maybe we'll leave it till Monday. But the day you get that certificate in hand, my goal for you is that you can start teaching immediately. And that is one of the reasons why I continue to rewrite the manual. I get feedback from past students. I put it into, I put it in a little document, and I see where I can make some changes. So it was important to me. It just felt like the right thing to do, essentially, to allow this training to be certified by Yoga Alliance. So you have the choice. You do not need to register with Yoga Alliance, but you have the option if you want to, because this course is certified through them. Another question I frequently get asked is, what are we even going to go over? I'm not going to lie. Some of it is challenging. Some of it is dry. We're not practicing yoga all day, but we are going to have a lot of practice time with you. So when I was putting together this material, I had to work with a couple of different things. So first thing I did was I reached out to, I got permission from some Facebook groups to reach out and ask things like, what do you feel was missing from yoga teacher training? And then I had to also take Yoga Alliance's standards and kind of mesh them together. So one of the main things that I heard from a lot of students was they didn't feel like they had enough time to practice teach. So you're going to get a ton of time to practice teach. Now, I'm not going to throw you into the deep end and say, teach a 60-minute class by the Sunday of our first training. No. We're going to take it nice and easy. We're going to practice kind of just like talking out loud to your fellow peers. That is going to be your first piece of homework. Then you're going to end up teaching a warm-up. Then you will teach the first half of class, then you will teach the back half of class, and then you will have a 60-minute class that you can then present as your final project. Last time I ran this training, I actually had an extra teaching bit in there where they kind of practice taught a 60-minute class. And to be honest with you, I felt like I could have just signed the certificate that day and handed it off to them. So I decided to pull back on that one. Everyone's different. So depending how the training is going to go, we do have room to make that happen if you would like, but that is my goal. It feels like that was a really good sweet spot for everyone to kind of get done what they wanted to get done. Now, our in-person time is going to be focused on learning yoga poses as well as your practice teaching. If for some reason you would like to have the experience of teaching your class online, I can make that happen on a Friday, on a Saturday, on a Tuesday. I have no problem doing that whatsoever. Again, I want to make sure that you feel confident in whatever format you think you're going to teach in. One question actually I forgot to put into my little list here is like, what if I don't want to be a yoga teacher? What if I just want to deepen my practice? And the truth about that is about 50% of people who join a yoga teacher training do not want to teach. They have no intention of teaching. They just want to dive a little bit deeper into the world of yoga for their own personal practice. And you are welcome. I will refer to you as a yoga teacher throughout the entire training. From day one, you are a yoga teacher. With that said, the only thing that is different in this training, if you never want to teach ever, is you don't have to do the homework and you don't have to do the practice teaching. However, as someone who never thought that they would actually teach regular yoga classes, aside from the pre-choreographed stuff that was being handed to me before, life changes. You never know what's going to happen. And the one thing that I would hate to happen to you is you go through this 200-hour training. And then 3 years down the road, you decide you want to teach, but you can't because you don't have a certificate. And the certificate's important for things like insurance. I never want that to happen to you. So my advice is go through the training like you intend to teach. If you don't teach afterwards, that's fine. I am the first person to say that teaching in front of your peers is terrifying. I dislike it so much. When I took my advanced yoga teacher training, I think I was like 12, 13 years into teaching. And teaching in front of other yoga teachers and people that I respected in the industry who were my teachers, like I was beside myself. I was so nervous. I was sweating. My back was sweating. My palms were sweating. Everywhere was sweating. Like, just to get kind of gross with you. But it is very nerve-wracking. But I just want you to remember we're all in this together. We are all here to support you. We all want you to see you succeed. The way the students' eyes light up when they watch their fellow student nail a class, which you will, is one of the coolest things I think I've ever seen in my life. They are there rooting you on. Truly, truly, truly. So again, if you just want to deepen your practice, I understand. I will not force you to do the homework. I will not force you to practice teach, but I highly recommend it because you never know what life is going to bring. Now let's jump back to what the heck is in this training. So as I mentioned, I do follow Yoga Alliance's standards, so there's very specific things that we need to cover. Things like we're starting off with history of yoga and some of the foundational things that you need to know. I have decided to get rid of what I would consider as someone who was not good in science or gym class for that matter, when I was in school, we are going to cover anatomy at the beginning. I want to make sure we have lots of time to dive in. This is one of the sections that I worked really hard on rewriting since the last graduation, because it was always my goal to create something simple. So if you never took anatomy in your life, if you weren't good at anatomy in high school or whatever, you will be able to take from that section what you need to know right now. And I thought I did pretty good, but I definitely missed the mark on a couple of things. So, what did I do after the training? I went out and bought Anatomy for Dummies. And I was like, okay, how do they explain it to people? And I got a lot of insight and stuff. And I took some of the things that I learned through this reading and implemented into this upcoming training. And I am so flippin' excited at how it turned out. Like, I am really, really excited to bring this to you. To be honest with you, science is dry, at least in my opinion. If you ask my daughter, who's in chemistry at university, she loves science. So maybe it wouldn't be dry for her, although we're not covering chemistry. But it is a lot of information, and it is very much lecture-based. So we're definitely going to kind of hop in and out of the anatomy section. Whenever we're in person, we're going to, again, focus on the yoga poses. We're going to hop back into the anatomy section. If you have any questions about it, you're always more than welcome to stop me, say, I don't get this, and I will find a way to explain it to you even better. And then I'll make some notes and I will continue rewriting. So then we head into subtle anatomy. So this covers the chakra system as well as the different energy channels in the body. This is the section that I absolutely lovingly call the woo-woo section. So again, chakra systems, nadis in the body. We're going to start touching a little bit on some different meditations that have a very specific energetic proponent when it comes to the body. And to be honest with you, one of my favorite things is when these traditions have been created through yoga and science is now catching up. And I love when science can back up things that have things that have been done for decades or, even 100 years ago. That to me is really, really exciting. Then we're going to dive into breathing mechanics and, of course, touch on a lot more meditation, pranayama, things like that. After that, we're going to kind of finish off the asanas, the yoga poses, as well as start talking about teaching methodology so you can really start to deliver a really fantastic class. Then we talk about private yoga because it's one of those crazy things where I truly believe that private yoga is simpler than teaching a group class. Because when you're teaching a group class, person over here might be able to do one thing, person over here can't do it, and you really have to try to navigate, how do I support both of these two individuals? But with private yoga, you only need to focus on one person. So I really think it's a fantastic way to deepen your experience as a yoga teacher when you can kind of focus in on one person and see how you navigate the situations that they're dealing with, and then being able to bring that into a group class. So providing a section on private yoga was really, really important to me with this training. Another thing that was really important to me was inclusivity. We are going to dive deep into inclusivity and even talk about some of the different options and ways that we can support students from all walks of life. I have a little bit of a crisis of consciousness, we'll call it, when I hear the term yoga for every body, usually separated into two words. And I like to believe that in my classes, I have truly created an environment where I can take care of those individuals. I do this kind of hybrid of private yoga in a group setting. I get to know the students beforehand as much as they would like to share with me. I plan things based on the people who are in the classes. I'm very lucky to be able to do this. It's a lot of work, but it really lights me up. With that said, I have one prerequisite for my classes, and that is that you need to be able to get down to the floor and off the floor without my help. I have a chair set up. You can use the wall. It doesn't have to look pretty, but you need to be able to get up and down off of the floor. If somebody comes to me and says, I can't get up and down off the floor, period, no problem. We set up a few private sessions. We develop the strength to be able to do that. We find different strategies that will help you, and then you just come right into class. So having the ability to kind of look from an outside perspective of at people who have different needs is going to be really great. And we do include this into the inclusivity piece, as well as going over lots of talking about cultural appropriation, talking about accessibility. All kinds of things will be covered in this section that I truly believe are so important for every single one of us as yoga teachers to really understand. Memories escaping me, but it also feels like we're going to touch on trauma-informed yoga in this section as well. We're going to talk about hands-on assists, whether they're appropriate, whether they're not. All kinds of things will be covered within this section that are going to be a gold mine for you as a yoga teacher. Then we go through program creation. So now that you've kind of had some chance to kind of get the tools to deliver a class, now we're going to figure out how to put together a class and how to even put together notes that you can just quickly glance down at and know exactly where you are in class. I still use a notebook to this day. It's sitting right behind me on the floor. I have a class later today. The way I take notes now is very different than I did at the beginning, but I'm going to break down how I do it. Everything from like pose names, making sure that we're staying within the constraints of the time that we have, making sure that you understand your notes, because sometimes I get confused too, because for instance, there are some yoga lineages that we'll call pigeon pose, swan pose. So sometimes by drawing a little stick figure, that can be really helpful to help you figure out exactly which pose you're looking at. And sometimes, maybe you'll do this, maybe you don't. Sometimes I make up stuff. And sometimes they're in the form of options that are very similar to the yoga poses you know and love. And other times they're just not. So again, just super important for me to be able to share that experience with you and share ways that you can successfully create a plan. And not just in terms of taking notes, but actually like what is the ideal kind of order of the way we do things? How do we build up to things like a peak pose if you try to do it? When should you do a counterbalance? All of these things will be covered between this section on program creation as well as the teaching methodology. Then we're going to go through restorative yoga. This training is rooted in Hatha yoga. However, restorative yoga is such a beautiful practice. I wanted to put it in there. I feel like so many of us are constantly going into the next thing. Restorative yoga really teaches you to slow down and just be in the moment. We're going to go over a class together. I'm going to teach that class. This is one of the classes that I teach that will be done in the studio. Most of the time when I teach a class, it's actually going to be online, but this one we're going to do in studio because I have all the props. I have so many props here, they're coming out of my nose. But I want to make sure that you have all the props that you need, especially if you don't have a whole ton of yoga props at home. After restorative yoga, we go through conscious communication. We're talking about how to be a leader. The required reading for this section is Dare to Lead by Brene Brown, because I think there's some really incredible insights in there. How to communicate people properly, how to accept any feedback that your students graciously give you, how to respond in challenging situations, just how to essentially communicate with people in an effective way. And then finally, we're going to touch on the business of yoga. Now, this is one of the sections that I chose to elongate a little bit more than the standards of yoga, Yoga Alliance, pardon me, because no matter what, you're going to be responsible for some kind of marketing of yourself. Even if you're teaching at a studio, a lot of times we are encouraged as yoga teachers to share our classes, to invite people to our classes, even if somebody else is the boss. And if you ever decide to do things on your own, even if that's as simple as teaching yoga in the park, you want to be able to get that message out there. So this is a pretty in-depth kind of business course that we are going to do live together. I'm going to give you time to actually go through the different exercises that I've created for you. We're going to develop an Instagram bio. We are going to kind of put together what your yoga story is so you can have an about page. I think that's almost one of the most important things to start with if you're creating a website. And then kind of taking it from there. What are some of the different channels you can use for things like email marketing, social media, anything that you want to know. Which also brings me to the next point. There are times, so in the past, I had a plan and had to stick to the plan no matter what. And sometimes the plan didn't work for whatever reason. And most of the time I'm thinking about back in the day when I taught stroller boot camp and suddenly it was raining. And what do we do now with our time? And I'm going to tell you right now, we did not cancel for the rain, but we did modify things. So even with this training, there are times, And it might just show up when I'm teaching you different classes, that I will touch on things that are part of your journey. Just as an example, one of the students from the last training told me right up front she wants to teach older populations and specifically chair yoga. So I put together an entire chair yoga class not for her, for us to go through together, but that was one of the things that I planned in. We also talked a little bit about how to use the chair in different ways, shapes, forms. I wanted to make sure that she had a really good understanding of chair yoga that I could fit within the confines of the 200 hours we have together. So she was set and ready to go. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, she did teach within the week after graduating, which was amazing. So there is some room. So if, you're telling me, I can't even think. All I'm thinking of is chair yoga now. But if there is something very specific that you're looking to do, I will do my best to support you in that journey as well by kind of moving things around a little bit to make sure that you are completely supported. That was a lot of information, wasn't it? I feel like that was a lot of information. But that basically covers it all. I'm not seeing any comments on Facebook. I'm not seeing any comments on Instagram. It looks like I'm frozen on Instagram right now. So, I'm back now. I'm moving again. So yeah, that is all I've got for you today. So I hope that brings some clarity into exactly what I'm doing here. Again, we are like just a smidge over 3 weeks away from the next class, the next graduating class, starting off their journey. So we have several people signed up already. We would love to have you join us. If you are interested, I would like to invite you to apply for the yoga teacher training. And I'm going to be in there quite a bit lately because I want to really make sure that we get the ball rolling for you. So I got a manual for you. I think it takes me about a week to print the manual. So I want to make sure that I'm kind of getting all of that stuff together as quickly as possible, getting you on a phone call, or you can come into the studio if you want to chat, whatever feels most comfortable for you. I want to make sure that if this is the path that you are ready for, you are giving me a hell yes. There should be no question left unanswered. There should be no stone unturned. I want you to make sure that you are making a confident decision with this because it's a huge investment. Like I said, 200 hours. This isn't like, I'm going to teach for 50 and between your required reading and everything else, we should get to approximately 200. No, I am teaching you for 200 hours, a combination of, me teaching you and you practice teaching, I should say. So I want to make sure that you feel comfortable and confident. Just because you apply does not mean you're signing up for anything. So head to bodymindfitness.ca/apply now. I'm going to put that, I believe the link is in my bio on Instagram. And I believe the link is in the description on Facebook. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me on either social media platforms or send me an email at mail@bodymindfitness.ca. Again, that's a .ca. A .com is going to go to somebody who owns that, who doesn't actually have a business called bodymindfitness.com, but they really want to sell me that URL for way too much money. Some people do this. They acquire things and then anyways, that's not anything you need to know about. But it is a .ca. Also another note too, because I know the populations of people that are in my mailing list on social media, everything like that. I am in Canada, so the prices are in Canadian. I know sometimes across the board, prices are in US. So if you are tuning in from the States and you want to come online, you're going to save the price is actually something like 25% cheaper for you, maybe even more. So how much that's going to be, I don't know. It depends what the bank wants to charge you that day, I suppose. But again, if you have any questions, comments, feelings, please feel free to let me know. There is still some space left in studio, but it is first come, first serve. So again, bodymindfitness.ca/apply now. No, apply YTT. Apply now would probably actually be a good one, to be honest with you. So /apply YTT. So APPLY YTT. And I look forward to, as always, connecting with you again very soon. Bye for now.